Welcome to the New Warehouse Podcast, the podcast for those that are curious about what's possible inside their four walls. Before we get into this episode, let's hear a word from our sponsors that make this all possible. How healthy is the storage in your warehouse? Have you ever walked the aisles looking for rack damage, empty pallets, or hanging pallet wrap? I know I've spent too much time doing that in my ops career. Now, there's a better answer from Dextery. Storage Health is their AI-powered check that runs with every robot scan that can detect damage, safety hazards, and hygiene issues across your warehouse at every height. Think damaged racking, pallet defects, tipped items, hanging shrink wrap, or damaged goods. Easily detected and alerted by Dextery's AI-powered platform while their robot scans your aisles. Stop missing these critical ops items and put Dextery's Storage Health to work for you at Dextery.com. That's DEXORY.com. Thank you to our sponsors, and now let's get to the podcast.
The New Warehouse Podcast, hosted by Kevin Lawton, is your source for insights and ideas from the distribution, transportation, and logistics industry. A new episode every Monday morning brings you the latest from industry experts and thought leaders. And now, here's Kevin.
Hey, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse Podcast, bringing you a new episode today. And on today's episode, we are going to talk to Steven Leeds. He is a senior category manager at Global Industrial Company. And Global Industrial, well, in my career, I've certainly ordered a number of things for them for the warehouse itself. So they have lots of warehouse supplies, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of their offerings, some of the newer things that they're offering as well from an automation perspective. And we're also going to talk a little bit about their perspective on the warehouse market, because not only do they serve our industry, but they are also big shippers. And I know, because actually this morning I just drove by one of their huge warehouses here in New Jersey as well. So they have their own operations, and we're going to see a little bit about how do they take their learnings from there and then apply it to products they offer to their customers and serve that market as well. So Steven, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Happy to get you on and happy to talk about this. As I mentioned, Global Industrial is kind of ubiquitous in the warehouse space, and I've certainly placed a number of orders with you in my career. So happy to get you on the podcast and dig a little bit into what you all do on a big scale, and also from an operational perspective, what you see in the market too. But for people that maybe are not familiar with Global Industrial, why don't we kick it off here and tell us a little bit about your company, and tell us a little bit about how you serve the warehouse market specifically.
Sure. Yeah. Global Industrial, we've been around since 1949. The main verticals that we cater to are, warehouses, distribution centers, manufacturing, and then healthcare, hospitality, education are all big parts of our business as well. We like to say when it comes to product, we carry everything from the curb to the curb. So anything that's in between it, we can supply that.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you haven't browsed on their site or anything, there's just a plethora of products out there. Actually, I'm curious, do you know how many products do you actually offer?
Yeah, we've got whether it's 1.6 million is a number that's out there. Our whole ethos is the right product at the right price. And so we carry both our private brand, as well as every major national brand there is. We really try to give the customers the option or the opportunity for choice. Yeah. So at the end of the day, there's not really a pressured sales approach. We present you with a few different items, all that will fit your need. It's dependent on, whether it's your price point, availability, and, ultimately we help guide you to the right decision and let the customer make the choice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I knew you had a lot of products. I didn't know it was quite that many. That's pretty astounding. But certainly, goes to what you said, from the curb to the curb. Everything you could want to put inside your facility or around your facility. I know you all have, because I've ordered that stuff from you before. Especially doing new distribution center startups in my career. Ordered a lot of supplies to get things going with Global Industrial. So it's very interesting because, as I mentioned there in the beginning, you all have your own large distribution centers, right, that you're storing these products in and shipping these products from. There's a massive one close by me here in the central Jersey area. So I'm curious, like, how do you take and look at your own warehouse operations, and then also your customers' warehouse operations, take like the learnings from both, and what do you see is kind of some of the main challenges or the main things that are kind of bubbling up in the market right now?
We're very lucky to be in a business where, like, we're not just the supplier, we're a practitioner.
Yeah.
Like, we have warehouses, we have 5 DCs in the US, 2 in Canada. We move around big and bulky items throughout our warehouses. So it does give us, a tremendous amount of insight into what's going on, what the trends are, what our own experiences are, but also, the amount of customers we have. We really try to listen to our customers. And in our own warehouses, like, we've got, certain bottlenecks with how our warehouses were set up 20, 30 years ago in some locations, where times have changed. Our product assortment has changed. We're doing a lot of pack and ship versus the big and bulky as that part of our business grows.
Sure.
We also, I believe, just like every one of our customers, labor shortages and kind of the evolving landscape, with worker throughput, how efficient, our guys are able to be with what we have in place. And so, what I hear from customers a lot is that they need to do more with less.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. And then the top thing that's spoken about in our warehouse, and I believe should be the same for all other warehouses, is really worker safety and ergonomics. And so a lot of the solutions that, I plan on talking about today really help address those concerns and, keeping your employees safe and happy at work.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's such a critical point there. And you all offer a lot of products to be able to address some of those things from a safety perspective, from an ergonomics perspective, from even just, organization and keeping a clean operation as well. I'm curious, like, how does, when you think about new products or product development in a sense, I mean, how do you take like the learnings from your own operations and then combine them with, what you're learning from your customers themselves and kind of bring that together to be like, okay, well, this is what the market needs, right? Because you got it interesting, like, as you said, you're practitioners as well. So it's like you have your own test grounds or proving grounds in a sense. Like, how does that work from like a development perspective?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And like, so for instance, like within our janitorial division, we sell floor machines, scrubbers, sweepers. That's, a big part of our business, just because, like, the real belief is a safe warehouse starts with a clean floor.
Yeah.
And so,
absolutely.
and for years, traditional Jan Sand dealers didn't really have access to the places that we did as a warehouse. And so did with the right product. And so we had experienced that. And so, like, for instance, so we make our own brand of floor scrubbers. We've got 14 different models, everything from a 13-inch all the way up to a 70-inch ride-on.
Okay.
It looks like a big Zamboni.
Yeah, it sounds pretty big. Yeah.
Oh yeah, does you can clean 1 million square feet in a shift. But traditional scrubbers were really designed for hospitals and big box retailers. And so while they performed the job, they weren't necessarily designed for a warehouse environment. So when we started looking at that and looking at our own needs and things that we wanted, one, from a technical perspective, some of those machines are too complicated to be in a warehouse. A hospital has a designated janitorial staff. They're trained up on the machine. They're primary function is to clean the facility. In a warehouse, it's like, everybody's pitching in.
Yeah.
So, if a guy's got a spare hour, they say, hey, Terry, go hop on the scrubber and take it around. So, the first thing we looked at was, instead of optimizing the parts of the machine that weren't needed, we just got rid of them. So we made it the easiest to use in the market. The second thing was there's a lot of moving pieces in a warehouse.
Sure.
So for us, the same blue light technology that's on a forklift that shines out,
right.
we were one of the first to put that on all of our ride-ons. So now when you're coming down an alleyway, that forklift can see you before it hits you.
Yeah.
And then it just comes down to the soil loads and, different approaches with that. We have enhanced brushes that are specifically made for concrete. And that's just one example of how, we saw what our own limitations were with the products that were out there. And we were able to design products that were able to live in a high trafficked warehouse environment. And that's the kind of approach we take with a lot of our products, really understanding the environment it's going to go into, and then, adding what we call the extra chip in the cookie internally. So if it has our name on it, we've gone through that process when developing it.
Yeah. And I love cookies with a couple extra chips in them. So that's great to hear, definitely. And, I think super interesting there. And like a really great example, like you mentioned that, typical outside of warehouse, right? The, kind of janitorial and things like that. Like there's, just dedicated people that are working on that all day, right? But the majority of warehouses, to your point, right, is like, okay, well, cleanliness is everybody's pitching in, right? I mean, maybe there's, a service that comes in, does bathrooms and things like that. But in the warehouse itself, like oftentimes, right? I mean, I know, from my management experience, like we would assign areas to certain people, right? And like, all right, you're responsible for keeping this, 5S and clean and everything like that. So I love that you took that and said like, okay, well, because of that, like, if somebody is just gonna, jump on the scrubber because they got an extra free hour, like you said, well, let's make it as simple as possible to be able to use, right? Especially for somebody that maybe is not using it all the time, or it's getting rotated through whose turn it is, and things like that. I love that you're able to do that. And obviously, being a practitioner yourselves, like you're able to have that experience and kind of take that away and understand that. So that's really great.
Like warehouse employees are asked to really do so many cross-functional things where in other facilities it's not the case, or other jobs. So there really is a lot asked of people in a warehouse. Their heads always got to be on a swivel. They're constantly pitching in, helping out their coworkers. So again, just because we have warehouses, we know these things.
Yeah, absolutely. So now let's talk a little bit about, some of the shifting that's going on in the warehousing industry itself. And you touched on a little bit, some of the labor challenges, and a lot of that is, sparking some more investment in automation, or at least more exploration in automation as well. So tell us a little bit about, how is Global Industrial approaching automation, and also like, what are you seeing from your customers' perspective? Like, is that changing the types of products they need? Are they moving towards more automation? What are you seeing when it comes to automation in the space?
We're seeing more targeted integrations of automation. It's not just, hey, automate my entire facility.
Sure.
Each facility is different. Each industry is different. Each manufacturer has different constraints. Again, depending on, when their building was built or how their layouts are. And so, we're not seeing a rush to replacing employees with machines. We're really seeing it as a need to replace tedious or mundane tasks and free up those employees, to go do more important things. So, a lot of the products that we're bringing on are, a direct response to customers, asking for those specific types of products.
Yeah. So give us some examples of like what are those products that you're bringing to market in response to that?
Latest one we have is like our autonomous stretch wrap machine.
Okay. All right. Cool.
So that's a very good example.
Yeah.
If you've ever wrapped a pallet, it's It's awful.
It is. You can get dizzy pretty easy. Yeah.
Yeah, for so many different reasons. The strain on your back, going from the up and down, and then having to go around that pallet. Also, just this machine makes it so that you get a consistent product every time. It can wrap a full pallet in 70 seconds. Goes for an entire shift. It's got an 8-hour battery. Like you could do 250, pallets. It's also mobile, so you can go, set it up anywhere in the facility. And so what that does is it now frees you up to actually, invest in training the 1 to 2 guys you had doing that and getting them on more meaningful tasks. It reduces, worker fatigue. It also, just like the example that I keep coming back to in my head is, these NFL teams that keep upgrading their facilities every year.
Yeah.
They're already paying these guys very well. They do it to keep them happy and retain them, to make a nice environment. Like it's the same thing within a warehouse. Nowadays, a guy can go pay an extra $1 and steal your entire, workforce. Yeah. You have to make these investments to make it the best environment possible. And so we've got a decent offering of autonomous, both from the material handling side. And then again, Jansan, we carry 2 really big brand names. We got the Nilfisk Liberty and the Karcher Kira. So from a warehouse perspective, the Karcher Kira is, I would say, the only machine that's capable of surviving in a warehouse environment currently.
And that's a automated floor scrubber?
Yeah, that's an automated floor scrubber. And what's really cool about it is it comes with a docking station. So that docking station charges the unit, but it also drains the water and fills the water.
Oh, so it does everything.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And with that, you can have multiple bases around the large facility too. And so you have it programmed so that it can hit one area while it's not being used. It doesn't have to go all the way back to the first docking station. It can go to the middle one and then go out in there. And so, just even with cleaning, we haven't seen someone say this needs to clean my entire facility. So we had a customer that came to us and said they're big manufacturer, big automotive manufacturer, and said, hey, we want one of these. So we looked into it. We said, listen, the type of debris you have on your floor and the different processes you have going on, we don't really think that this would be the right product for your whole warehouse. And they actually came back and said, oh no, we agree. We actually just want it for the walkway. It's a big 3 million square foot manufacturing facility. And so I was like,
huge, yeah.
And so I was like, that's pretty interesting. And they go, yeah, we figured out that if we just have this clean our walkway, it will free up our guys to go do X, Y, and Z. Yeah. And so, and that was a kind of an aha moment for me, that it's not about a total solution. It's about identifying, key issues, key problems, and seeing if an autonomous machine can address it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And I mean, it kind of goes back to what you said earlier, right? Like kind of replacing these, tedious, repetitive tasks. And, obviously if you can get people, I imagine 3 million square foot facility, that's a pretty long walkway. I can imagine right in my head. So I imagine, a lot of time dedicated to, the human cleaning that. So obviously that makes a lot of sense, like to do that trade-off of automating that process. And now, okay, let's take those people, let's do something more meaningful than cleaning the walkway, right? And being able to do that. So really interesting there. And I'm curious, I mean, the automated stretch wrapper, which is pretty cool. I've seen some pictures and videos of them. And, I think definitely a big unlock in terms of flexibility in the operation. Do you see people buying those and going after those in combination with the traditional, I guess, standalone turnstile type wrapper? Or is it people are going with those and replacing the turnstiles and using those?
I would probably say it's in conjunction. Again, it's not a one size fits all. So it really depends on the type of facility. And the other thing is just like I said, we'll never tell you that you need that if you don't. If you're wrapping 3 or 4 pallets in a day, you don't have to make that investment.
Right.
It's for the guys that have really heavy volume that this will make a significant impact, in their efficiency. So I don't think with any of these, lines of business that the traditional ones are going to, be gone. I think it's just going to be a kind of a different mix.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's really interesting to see, some of these flexible solutions because, I immediately when I think about the robotic stretch wrapper, and being able to put it anywhere in the facility essentially and move it there. I mean, it's great for, I can imagine like special projects and things like that. Or, if you have overflow somewhere like to bring it over there and not have to worry about all that excess travel time that it's going to take to go to like, the traditional stretch wrapper machine or as you pointed out before, to do it by hand, which can be like a ergonomic nightmare and take a long time and not necessarily be the most perfect wrap every time, right? Which is key as well. Yeah.
Oh yes, especially like you've seen how LTLs
Sure.
take care of the product sometimes. So it's the consistency on it, I think, is the biggest, besides for the labor savings and the the benefits to not having a worker bending up and down for 8 hours straight. But really, the consistency of knowing that the pallet is properly wrapped is huge. You can also just imagine, like, the places that get busy during the holiday season, that's able to, theoretically, pitch in to help with, when the volume gets, to be a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, even the comfort level too, like you mentioned, the football facilities, like making their guys more comfortable, right? I can imagine it's the same thing that, when that comes in the building, I'm sure the people that were doing the wrapping before are a little relieved because they don't have to do that strenuous work anymore, right? I'm curious also, like on the automation front, because you have such a large number of products, right? Obviously, there are people that are investing in robotics and automation and bringing that into their operations. Have you seen like an uptick in certain types of products or supplies that people are ordering to be able to support some of these solutions or that come more into play when they do have these in their operation?
So currently, not from what I'm exposed to, what I see, like, on the Janssen facility maintenance side,
Sure.
we have been selling more and more of these. We have customers coming to us wanting to get educated, on them. Really, we've we've made the decision to the lines that we're getting into on these are like the ones that are the easiest to deploy. There hasn't been much of a, ancillary products that need to go with, like, what we're currently carrying. But I'm sure over time that will change. But just for instance, when it comes to, autonomous floor scrubbers, there's been a big switch from pads to brushes. So
Okay.
A floor pad will only last you, 50,000 square feet. A human needs to change that. So a brush will last like 200 times longer. And so there's subtle, changes like that, for instance.
Interesting. Yeah. I was curious about that because I think about, how operations are shifting a little bit as they start to look at automation and things like that. I'm curious, like if the, like you said, ancillary kind of products change and shift around that a little bit too as well. So I guess we'll see how that kind of evolves a little bit. So, I'm also curious from your perspectives. We talked about, earlier, like you get to see, the customer operations and what they're doing and, things that are happening there, but then also within your own operations too. So, kind of taking all those insights and looking at the things that you're seeing. I mean, where do you think kind of the industry as a whole, warehousing industry, is kind of heading within the next few years? And what are some of the things that you think are going to stand out to people?
Well, from an automation perspective, I think you're going to see, more adoption, especially, as prices come down. And I would have to think that the proliferation of AI, will make the software side of this accelerate.
Sure.
So I think as price comes down, accessibility comes down, as people get more comfortable with it, we'll start seeing those additional items being created, going into the field. But again, our perspective is that it's not to replace people. It really is they started using the term in the floor care business, cobotics. So not robotics. You still need humans. You need people to, watch the machines, help deploy them, work around them in conjunction with them. Yeah, I don't think the trend is, within a warehouse is replacing people. I think it's, free them up. And as a business owner, you should want to, and, invest in educating your employees and getting them to do, higher level tasks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's going to be certainly the key, right? I mean, the more technology we see, right, doesn't mean that we're going to eliminate the humans, but we need to prepare the humans to be able to work with the technology and, as you said, kind of educate them and upskill them to be able to manage through those different kind of variations and what the future of the warehouse itself is gonna look like. And I think very interesting to hear from you here today, Steven, and learn a little bit more about Global Industrial and some of the automation offerings that you're doing, and just the overall kind of way that you look at the product offerings and the product development in itself. I think it's really fascinating to talk to a business that is serving the warehouse industry, but also is the practitioner themselves as well, and having to navigate some of the complexities of warehouse operations, especially with 1.6 million products that need to be stored and shipped and packed and dealt with and delivered to customers in a timely manner. So really appreciate you joining me here on the show to talk a little bit about this. If people have never ordered from Global Industrial before, or want to learn more about Global Industrial and some of the products we mentioned today, what's the best way to do that?
You can go to globalindustrial.com. So we've got a pretty extensive offering online, but we also, not everything we have is shown on our website. We like to go the extra mile. So with any of our customers, we have an entire sourcing team that will go
really?
and reach out to our vendor partners, and try to find the product. If we don't have it, we have over 300 dedicated account reps, for that act as an extension of your procurement department, if you need a managed account. And so, we do business any way our customers, need us to. So just like Avis says, we try harder. That's right. Our tagline is, we can supply that.
Gotcha. All right. Well, you got it. They can supply that. So if you need something supplied, reach out to Global Industrial. We'll put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com and in the show notes so people can easily find it and search those 1.6 million products and plus things that are not on the website too, as well, as Steven just mentioned there. So Steven, thank you once again for joining us on the show today.
You've been listening to the New Warehouse Podcast with Kevin Lawton. Subscribe and check us out online at thenewwarehouse.com.
Enjoyed this episode? Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast, and for more content from the New Warehouse, find us on LinkedIn and YouTube. Links to subscribe can be found in the show notes, and for everything The New Warehouse, head to thenewwarehouse.com.